So this is our first panel of the day, Navigating the Boardroom, Strategies for Success. We'll be exploring boardroom dynamics, discovering effective negotiating strategies and leadership styles in the corporate boardroom, and learning from our panellists' experiences in breaking through the glass ceiling. I'm Noni Edwards. I'm a journalist and broadcaster. I'd like to briefly introduce our panellists today so we can get underway without further ado. So we have Jean Shahdadpuri on the end, Dr. Jean Shahdadpuri. She's the Managing Director of the Nikai Group of Companies and co-founder and Chief Medical Officer of Ardent Consulting. Please welcome Mashreq's Group Head of Marketing and Corporate Communications, Muna Ghurair. And Shamsa Falasi, the CEO of UAE Onshore at Citi.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Let's dive straight in. I'll start with you, Dr. Jean. Speaking of breaking through glass ceilings, with your 20 years of expertise in both the consumer tech and healthcare industries, you've reached the C-suite in both arenas and smashed through not one but two glass ceilings. What unique insights can you share with us on navigating boardroom dynamics?
So thank you, first of all, for inviting me to this amazing get-together. And it's a special day, although I don't think we need an International Women's Day to celebrate every day, right? Every day is a celebration for being a woman. But pleasure to be a part of these events, so it's really helpful to learn from a lot of insights and co-panelists and speakers. So thank you, everyone. Let me address Nooni's question. So, yes, I did break two glass ceilings, and rest assured I was wounded and scarred. So it wasn't easy, definitely not easy. But essentially, I don't know if it's not easy just for me or if it's not easy for anybody to reach there, right? So you have to start knowing very deeply the subject you are in, the field you're in the industry. And then you got to know the skill set of managing human capital. I think hiring good teams, having a clear vision, and having a very focused yet accurate approach to any problem that you're solving. US healthcare, as I guess everybody knows, is not the perfect system. It's pretty broken, and we're trillions of dollars in deficit. And there is a reason for that. It's not that we're not the best. It's not that we don't have the skill set, but the way we are managing it is not right. So we started managing healthcare, called Managed Healthcare in California, and did it very well. Of course, you have to set an example. You have to lead by example. You have to get outcomes and results, and that's how we were able to go to the federal level and implement Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, across the nation. C-level comes with a lot of accountability and responsibilities. It's not always fun, but one thing is that you got to have a good team. So your team is your pillar, but you got to have a very clear strategic direction in where you're going and how you're going to get there, and carry your team along and celebrate the little wins. Realize where your obstacles and hurdles are and strategize around it. I'm sure all these people, first of all, these two look like they've just gotten out of college. But honestly, it takes a lot of experience, and it's learnings along the way, so I wouldn't say it was easy. Here in this region, I understand this region very well. This region has a unique dynamic of being very nurturing, providing a lot of collaborative support. We have the Ajman Free Zone leader here, and they're all right about, they do think about diversity, inclusion, they do think about collaboration, they do want to enable and facilitate. I'm not seeing anything like the way UAE leadership does it. It's probably unique in this region as well. So glad to know that I'm in a country which is ahead of the curve and definitely progressing towards the right direction.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jean. So moving into consumer finance now, Muna Ghurair, with your wealth of experience in financial services, branding, PR and marketing, could you please be so kind as to share your insights on how gender diversity within boardrooms impacts corporate decision-making and marketing strategies?
I think it's not just a metric. When we talk about women in the boardroom, it is a strategic way for organizations to drive better decision making, better financial results. It actually drives growth and I would say effective governance, innovation. I've come across women who bring, unique experience on the table, I would say. In the span of at least the years that I've worked for, I've observed women in leadership, they definitely bring forward a diverse opinion in everything they do. What else can I remember? Hold on. And I think the fact that they are unique and they come with a unique set and skills itself talks a lot. And they have these authentic style of leadership where they are empathetic, yet decisive in strength. I think at Mashreq we were able to have a 36% of gender diversity, which goes without saying. It's a crucial milestone where where it talks about how much the region and the organizations are having importance of these gender diversity, empowering women, in paving the path for future women to take leadership roles.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving on to leadership styles now, Shamsa Falasi, as well as your role as CEO at Citi, you're also a board member at the American Business Council here in Dubai. How do you find your own boardroom leadership styles differ between those two roles?
First of all, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being She and Gulf News for having us today. And kudos to the men in the room for celebrating International Women's Day. Happy International Women's Day to everyone. So I will answer the question from two perspectives. The first one from an American Chamber of Commerce. We act as a voice of American businesses in the UAE. So on a regular basis, we have to rely a lot on the feedback they do share with us, because ultimately we need to be the advocate on what they would like to achieve, challenges they face, opportunities where we can help them. So a lot of the board style that we usually work on is collaborative, innovative, as well as nowadays we're focusing a lot on making it sustainable as well. So a part of it, and the way we play a very big role as women, and by the way, we do have around 40% of women on the board of AmCham Dubai, which has been a continued focus for us. The value that we actually bring in is we challenge. We usually speak up in terms of the feedback we receive from our clients. We do have multiple of committees that we work on. Some of them are very much current in terms of the subjects that they discuss. And we play a very big role as females being on the board, because a very big skill that we actually are born with, we're very much, we have the empathy. Therefore, we very much rely on communicating with people, getting closer to people, and really understanding their perspective when we deliver those sort of messages. So ultimately, it becomes very powerful, as well as it becomes very much driven and supportive in terms of business growth. I know Matthias talked about profit. It's extremely important to all of us, but ultimately, being in a position to communicate and to deliver that message with innovative way is extremely important. The other part that I wanted to quickly touch base on, because we also have an executive management team within Citi, where we also have roughly around close to 40% as well. It's a very big team. And we've also used a lot of skills in terms of, discussing a lot of important topics to us, very current, very much business-driven. We live in a very central location whereby there is never a dull moment. There is always something going on, additional business coming our way. But reflecting back on the pandemic, and thankfully it's behind us now, it was an eye-opener in terms of the role that women actually can play. When we've seen women at the time making decisions to leave the workforce and focusing on other areas, we've realized the impact that they were making by being part of the board, the management team, the contribution that they make, as well as pushing the company all together in terms of being much more inclusive, much more diverse, as well as keeping them on track in terms of profitability, which continues to be extremely important to us as a bank as well.
Thank you. I think the pandemic also shed a lot of light on the concept of work-life balance.
Absolutely,
Some
yes.
for and some against.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Dr. Jean, so from the UAE perspective, Aurora 50 recently announced that the UAE's efforts to improve gender diversity had resulted in the number of women on listed UAE boards more than doubling, from 3.5% in 2020 to 8.9% in 2022. This follows the implementation of a quota in 2021 by the Securities and Commodities Authority of one woman listed per UAE board by the Emirates Securities and Commodities Authority. So, in your view, just simply, what is your view on the role of quotas? Are they a positive? Are they a negative? What do you think?
So I have two perspectives on it, and I don't mean to be controversial, but...
Please do.
I think quotas in general as a concept is given to the underprivileged, and that's where I have a problem with. I think each position and each person needs to be deserving of the role, needs to have a mastery on or expertise on the subject matter, and shouldn't be given any extra privileges or extra favor by getting on the board or on any seat. So I believe in equal effort. I mean, in today's day and age, I think we have men supporting us throughout our journeys, right from families to, I mean, he spoke about his daughter. I mean, I bet she's the current boss, right? So fathers have encouraged us, grandfathers have encouraged us, brothers, cousins, husbands, sons, right? So I don't see that as the same as it was maybe a few decades ago. Also, the whole concept of women empowerment, I feel we don't have to seek anyone's permission. We don't have to seek power to be given to us. I think it's all within, and people just have to look inwards and kind of work on yourself and keep learning and keep evolving. And then you eventually get where you want. I mean, you just have to need it enough, want it enough, so bad that you have nothing but that objective in mind. And I don't see how the gender could be a hurdle in anyone's trajectory in their career. So so quotas, I don't know, but maybe different regions of the world probably is more relevant. Some regions that actually need that pull, but I think making it mandatory kind of disadvantages the other people. And so that's where I differ a little bit. But
can I add actually to Dr. Jean? And I consider us lucky in the UAE because it's something that we grew up with in terms of supporting women overall and opening doors for them. But as as Ismail mentioned, there has been a lot of support across different industries. Having said that, having quotas, extremely important messaging to reiterate to the women that you are expected to get to that point. So you have the support, you have the network, so you need to now be accountable to grow and get to where you need to be. Because we've seen people actually moving in mid-level outside.
It's really lovely to get both of those perspectives.
Yeah.
Thank you. Muna, how do you mentor and support the women? If we're speaking about the pipeline of talent, how do you mentor and support the women around you in your industry, financial services?
I think back in the day, people would, especially youngsters who would be interns, and I've mentored many. They would come and say, "Oh, can I be your mentee and mentor?" And then you get into this whole emotional ride with them because you're trying to fill the professional gap. And then you're also trying to tell them, please take all the opportunities that help you grow and prove yourself and keep on proving yourself. And then you go ahead and advocate a couple of courses for them. And it's a serious relationship. This mentorship is quite serious. And then while you're in the turmoil, I realized that a mentorship is nothing but you help them define their career path and help them achieve it. So you could go ahead and advocate a lot of courses and all of that, but that's not going to help at all. If you are in an executive position, if you don't have the power to elevate them to next level or promote them or move the needle in their career, this has no value. So this is for me. I mean, if anybody at all thinks of mentorship, they have to think of the impact that you have on that person.
I suppose it would be very easy to sit there and think, I think you would be great for this. Yeah. I think this is the path you should go on. Yeah. But if it doesn't resonate, there'll be no impact.
No, because ideally they're coming to you, you are in this executive position, and then you are their role model, and they like how your journey was. And then they're expecting to map this somehow, and you are completely constrained and you don't have power within you to, sort of, probably this person isn't even in your department. So then you go around and say, oh, this person is great, whatever. But if that power is not within you to promote or elevate them, and then you see them after your mentorship just going down the drain and leaving your organization, that's quite sad.
Mm.
Yeah.
That must cut.
Yeah. So that's my view.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shamsa, I was looking at Deloitte's Global Boardroom program. They produced the Women in Boardroom report, and the most recent one, the 7th edition, a couple of the questions that were raised there, in amongst all of it, I mean, there's a lot in there, but some of the questions I pulled out. Are the same women joining all boards? And why are women occupying board seats for fewer years than men? Is there a small pool of very, very resourceful women who are doing the rounds?
So a couple of things, and I've already touched base on one of them. Previously, it's the perception that women had. It's been a long journey for them. Obviously, there wasn't as much focus in terms of diversity and inclusion for organizations, but they really realized the negative impact and consequences when things started not to go on track based on what they wanted. Therefore, you will notice that a lot of women, they reach the mid-career level, for example, and then they have second thoughts about, should I continue or should I be leaving? Will I get the opportunities? You typically, within the mid-level range, things become much more challenging, difficult, and therefore you need to reinvent in terms of how you would want to see your career or which path you would like to take. In terms of mentorship and coaching, this is an extremely important and crucial stage for women to actually go through the process, because ultimately there are a lot of things that we will lose sight of. We tend to be on cruise control. We don't usually think about what else is possible. We don't reach out to ask for help. So all of these points are extremely important. And what I'm getting with that is when people seek the right support during that time, when they feel frustrated and they might need to take different perception, typically it really helps them stay on track and continue to get to management level, executive management level, and ultimately to the board. Things have been changing because there is much more awareness taking place nowadays, and therefore you see a lot of women are holding seats on boards nowadays. The other part is there has been much more awarenesses as well in terms of organizations, as well as entrepreneurship companies to bring in much more talent. Thirdly, governments are also pushing for it because they've seen the positive impact of growth of businesses, innovative ideas coming up, much more of a sustainable growth of these companies that they're leading. So it has been a very positive outcome, and we will continue to see it growth. Are we where we want to be? Not yet, but we are at least on track.
But just a quick follow-up there. I mean, it seems like you are very much ahead of the global curve. I mean, Deloitte's talking about global trends here, but I mean, it seems very much that we're ahead of that.
So one of the things, for example, that I'm really proud of being at Citi, for example, is they've been focusing on diversity and inclusion now for at least, I would say, a minimum of 10 years, whereby they decided to hold themselves accountable and start disclosing the development that we're having for women. So we ensured that we have coaching, mentorship, as well as we usually disclose the percentages of women in management positions. So this is something, we are in 95 countries at the end of the day. We're not equally, doing the same thing across, but we're putting the right messaging across, and it's coming from the management all the way to all the countries. The other point is that I wanted to highlight, we've been focusing on, from a hiring process, ensuring that we have 50% women, 50% men, not only focusing on women, because ultimately we need to build our allies as well, who will help us develop. Second point, in terms of mentorship development, to continue that mid-level, getting into a higher level. And thirdly, also providing them with opportunities. So in terms of focus, from an executive management, we roughly have around 26%, that's at the global level, in terms of women holding places now. From a board, we have more than 53% sitting on the board, which is fantastic. And in the UAE, roughly the women, as I said, across the entire population is about 40%, but the managing directors globally is about 30%, which is a very high rank in the corporate world and extremely difficult to get to. So there is a lot of focus. We're trying to share best practices with organizations that we work with, the governments in countries we operate in. But it requires and determines a lot of push and focus and continuity.
I can tell you're proud of those figures,
yes.
as you should be, yeah. Dr. Jean, how important is the female voice in the boardroom? Is there a direct link between female representation and company performance?
So,
or a simple link?
A study, and I'm actually blanking out on the name of the study, but you must look that up. Actually, and from a reliable source, showed increase in profitability the moment they included women on the board. I mean, this was not the executive level, but at the board. And they showed that the companies that had more women on the board were actually more profitable. And some of the things that they talked about was, just to give you an example, which she said, like the mentor-mentee relationship, right? Like, so for a woman, the moment they have a child, this child looks up to the mother, right? So you're kind of always in that mode of, how do I make my child better? How do I make them better than themselves, make them learn from their mistakes, make them learn from our mistakes? And you try to be that role model 24 hours a day, right? That same mindset actually comes into a corporate setup where now you are looking at a mentee. And I've always looked at mentees not as I have to fix them or I have to make sure they're successful, but kind of at least have them savvy enough to identify their weaknesses, strengths, opportunities, the roadmap, how to navigate through the hurdles and the challenges. Definitely something that I have learned from mistakes. I'm always very particular about getting them to know not to make those same mistakes. But navigating through a corporate setup or knowing what they themselves want to do, often mentees, once you get to know them, what they think they want to be or where they think they want to go is not always the same once they finish the program. So just getting them to know what they like, what they have passion for. It's without passion, there's no way they're going to get to where they need to go. So women on the board, I think, the voice, different perspectives, they bring different perspectives, as everybody thought. Empathy is one thing. But I also think patience comes along with the role that they play as a mother. If you have kids and if you have more than 3 kids or if you have boys, I mean, patience is one thing you really would need. So patience comes as a given once you're at that level. I also think multitasking, and not in a bad way, but multitasking in a way that our mind, scientifically and medically as well, thinks a little differently. We can think in 5 different directions. Pretty well. I won't say there are no weaknesses in a woman's brain. I mean, we're not great at directions, but at directions, I mean GPS kind of thing. But we can think along five verticals at the same time, which is different for a male mind to do. But I think a lot of that, plus I think we always learn how to take our families with us because we're dealing with our parents, in-laws. Similarly, the team. or a boardroom, how do we scan the boardroom, communicate effectively, make sure they're all on the same page, make sure we know what they need to hear and what they want to see. Also building relationships outside the boardroom, right? So I think that's where women are also pretty amazing. But essentially, when all these traits come together, you have a much better blend of not just interpersonal skills, but strategic thinking, corporate governance. So that blend actually plays pretty well in a boardroom when they want to give a diverse perspective along the strategic direction of the company. That's where I think their edge is.
However did companies run before there was this balance?
I have no idea. But they run better now.
Definitely.
Do you think they ran it in the background with the men?
They took all the credit.
No, but honestly, this is not like a men battering session, but they have been with us. They're the reason, I mean, all of us are daughters, right? All of us are wives. There's a reason why we are here. Somebody had to literally pick up the weight of all the things that we're not able to do. You know, Katie, I think, mentioned something about picking up from school. Yes, that's in the forefront, and that's also something that we feel like we must do, but have they not done it? Right? Have they not cooked a meal? Have they not taken care of our sick children? They've done it all, right? They've all done it. So I think we don't give enough credit to everyone. I mean, my husband's here in the audience. Give him all the credit and the reason why I could do what I could do.
Yeah, I mean, that was a point of Katie's before that resonated with me, that inclusivity benefits everyone.
Yeah.
Muna, I'm really interested to know, how do you, this is something that all of us could be interested in as well. What advice do you have for women or any of us who battle imposter syndrome?
What syndrome, sorry?
Imposter syndrome, who have hesitation in asserting our ideas?
I think be assertive. I don't have any personal advice. I can only tell you I've seen amazing women in my career. There should not be any, setbacks. There is only success ahead of them. They should not be thinking this is it. They should always keep going. I don't have any specific advice. Thank you.
Everyone, I think that's our time up for today, I'm afraid. I'd like to thank all of you for being here at the Future Women Leaders Forum 2024, powered by Gulf News and Being She. And a huge thanks to all our panellists today for sharing their time and expertise on navigating the boardroom. Dr. Jean Shahdadpuri, Muna Ghurair and Shamsa Falasi. Thank you.
Thank you.